How easy is it to be patient?
It's as easy as you make it.
And that's easy for you. I guess you've learned that, or is that something you felt like you've always been able to do? Because not being in your shoes, I'm just assuming any athlete, you want it now,
Yeah.
and trying to understand when it takes 3 steps to get to that end spot instead of taking one.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I think that it's for me, I'm a pretty realistic person, and I kind of look at things for what they are, probably too much some days, but I think that I recognize that things aren't just going to get better overnight. I have known that for a period of time now, and I'm at the end of the day. Look, I don't know how many steps there are to getting to where you need to go. I think until you encounter that entire journey, I don't think anyone really knows, but I'm willing to take however many steps it takes to get there, and I think that's the bottom line of the importance of what matters.
Chad Knaus said that you really can't look at a season until you're like 10 races in. He says Coca-Cola 600 is probably a better time to assess where you're at. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I would say so. And he's been doing it a long time. He's won a heck of a lot more than I have, so he is definitely a better person to ask. And I think too, being in that position, that he was in as a crew chief, and then obviously now, you get a really good kind of global view of things. Sometimes being in the driver's seat, you're just immersed so deep into it. It's kind of hard to step back and get some of those 1,000-foot views. So I think he is a really good person to ask, and probably the best one to ask. So I think he answered it well.
What does Bristol mean to you?
East Tennessee. I enjoy going to Bristol just as much today as I did 10 years ago.
Why? What's so?
I like the lay of the land, honestly. I mean, the racetrack's cool, and it is different from a lot of the other places that we go, and I think the environment, especially in the fall race, is exciting, and part of the reason why it's exciting is because that night race only happens once a year, right? So I also believe that less is more. And I think that those special events like that are special because they're annual. They happen one time a year, and the racetrack is a lot of fun. And again, it is something super different, but the norm, and I think the energy level that the stadium environment kind of brings to our world is just not something we see every week. So I think for that reason alone, it makes it unique. But I enjoy that part of the country. Love going. I think the racetrack's really cool. It's just kind of all around a good spot, in my opinion, other than it rains a bunch up there.
So what is it like to hear the roar of the crowd when they announce your name, and when they're on top of you like that?
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the coolest things ever because, when I was a kid, Bristol was one of the main reasons I wanted to be a race car driver. I mean, it was just, that environment was unbelievable. Like, being a kid, I mean, you couldn't get. I remember being a kid and going up there and watching the races, and I mean, they had tickets sold out for like 7 years. You couldn't get a ticket. Like, it was that big of a deal. So yeah, of course. I mean, that's as good as it gets.
Were you able to get a feel for the new tires and I guess the fall off and all that comes with it during practice?
Man, I'll shoot you super straight. They change a tire all the time around here, and not only does it not make the racing look any different, but it's really hard to tell, from inside the car. I think the cars have a natural characteristic and feel to them, and regardless of whatever compound they put on it, I'm not saying it doesn't change things, because it does, but they are such minute things. It's not going to look any different. You're never going to hear about it. It's just not. And I think I don't mean that negatively, but it's just not. The cars are what they are. We're racing on asphalt, and they're 4 tires. Like, it can only be so different. Mm-hmm. I guess is what I'm getting at, and so I don't read a whole bunch into that, and I think until you get through a race weekend with a new compound to just maybe see if it builds a little different or if it falls off a little worse. But typically, most guys, the same guys, run good every week, whether we're tire compound changed or not. You know, it's pretty consistent.
You seem a much better place here now than you were at the end of last season. Were you just spent?
No, I mean, I was just, you know, at that point, obviously our season was all but over, and we were just trying to think about this year, or at least I was, you know, and just trying to think about what I could do to, you know, to drive the car in a better way that suits the way it wants to be driven. And but no, I mean, I wasn't necessarily spent. Yeah, I was frustrated at different times, but I mean, I could be frustrated today and you wouldn't know it. So, you know, it's some days I might show it a little more than others, but it's not because I don't want to be here, or it's not because I don't want to do good. In fact, it's really the exact opposite. It's because I do want to do well, and it's because I do care. And you know, you can take that for whatever you want, but I just want to be good at my job. You know, that's about it.
How have you found you best channel that? How do you best channel that desire to be the best?
Just work hard. You know, make sure you're putting the time in, and pushing yourself in areas that you know you're weak. You know, I think a lot of times they're staring you right in the face, and you just gotta push yourself to get uncomfortable.
What's the biggest aspect from last year that you want to gain on for this year? That maybe last year, like, okay, where did that go? But now this year, you're like, okay, now I know what I need to get better at to turn, like, let's say a 12th into a top 10, an 8th into a top 5. Is it on pit road? Is it how you run your lines? Is it? You know?
That's tough, because some weeks can be so different than others. Some weeks, yeah, it might be a pit road thing, or some weeks it might be a restart thing. Like that's hard. I mean, I think you just have to strive to make sure you're pushing in all areas, and because to get where you want to go, they all have to be good at the end of the day. So it's like, if you know there's a weakness somewhere, we just have to make sure we're working on all of them.
Is there anything in particular athletes, since you enjoy other sports, that you admire or look to how they do something to be at the top level of their field as you are in your field?
I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, you know, I think I don't know. I mean, disciplines are always different, you know, across different sports. So it's really hard for me to compare.
I just didn't know if anything kind of caught your eye, or just kind
Yeah.
of thought about, you know, certain people that, hey, may have something about like Tom Brady, but they're not an athlete like you are, so maybe they like him for certain reasons, or other athletes like, but you understand more of the athletic mindset or what an athlete goes through. So I didn't know if, or, you know, if you look at Mahomes, or if you look at somebody on the Braves or somebody else, and that kind of resonates with you in a particular way.
I think it does at different times. You know, when I think one fortunate piece of my career is we've gone through periods of time and we've had a lot of success, and we've also gone through periods of time where we haven't. Sure. So I think kind of as we've gone down this path of having a tough year last year, you kind of look at things a little differently. And while, you know, to your point, you ask about Mahomes, I mean, yeah, obviously a great athlete, and he's been at the top of his game for some time. It kind of makes me think about a Josh Allen, a guy that just can't quite get over that hump, but we all know he's really good. How does he handle, you know, having to play Mahomes in the AFC Championship or NFC or whatever every year? And at some point he's going to beat him. And, you know, I think that journey is pretty cool to watch a guy who is obviously very talented and can do a really good job and works hard at his craft and seems like a good dude. But he's just been that little tick off, and I think there's a lot to be learned and gained from that journey, probably more so than just watching people dominate.
What would you hope, and I know you can't control what people think, what would you hope that other athletes or other drivers, as you look at Josh Allen or Mahomes, that they look at you, and what you would hope they would pull from what you do or how you do things?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we're not football players, so that's you know, it's
well, for the drivers.
You're not. Yeah. I don't know. We're kind of getting in the weeds.
Yeah.
I don't I'm not sure where he's leading me, but I was trying to answer the best I could.
We have time for one more.
No,
question.
like I said, I was just curious how you looked at other athletes and how you maybe.
Do you draw inspiration from them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always, yes. I enjoy watching people, and I enjoy watching people work hard to be good at their craft, and all that's different. But yeah, I enjoy watching it, and I respect it because while I might not know everything about it, I know it's hard,
Yeah.
and I think that's all I need to know. It's hard, and they're really good at what they do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kevin,
Yes.
your question, then we're done.
Yes, Chase. How did the longer 50-minute practice, like, how did the team approach the longer practice compared to like the typical 20-minute practices throughout the year?
Well,
Was it
it's-
any different?
Yeah, I mean, it just certainly gives you some more time to kind of digest things overnight, but the same people are going to be good. It ain't going to change because we had another, half hour of practice, in my opinion. I haven't seen a huge difference in the really good teams and drivers, whether we have 4 days of practice or 5 minutes, or none. I don't think it's a huge needle mover.
Perfect. Thank you.
What up? It's Brad Perez. Click subscribe and watch one of the 2 videos right beside me. Visit frontstretch.com for more racing content.